The morning sun barely touched the glass towers of New Haven when the dragon arrived. People rushing to work stopped dead in their tracks as the massive creature landed on top of the central bank building. Its golden scales caught the light like 1,000 mirrors, and when it spread its wings, the shadow covered 3 city blocks. Jake Morrison was drinking his morning coffee when his phone rang. The caller ID showed Mayor Patricia Wells, and Jake knew this meant trouble. He had been the head of the Urban Defense Corps for 5 years, and the mayor only called him directly when the city faced serious danger. "Jake, we need you at City Hall right now," Patricia said. Her voice was shaking. "Something big has happened. Really big." Jake grabbed his uniform jacket and ran to his car. As he drove through the streets, he could see people pointing up at the sky. Windows were broken on several buildings, and car alarms were going off everywhere. Whatever had happened, it was bad. The dragon let out a roar that shook every building. In downtown New Haven, Jake felt the sound in his chest like thunder. He had faced terrorists, armed gangs, and natural disasters, but he had never dealt with anything like this. At City Hall, Jake found chaos. Staff members were running around, with phones pressed to their ears. Some were crying. Others were packing boxes, like they planned to leave the city forever. Patricia Wells stood in her office, staring out the window at the dragon perched on the bank building. "Jake, thank God you're here," she said when he walked in. "Look at that thing. It's been there for 2 hours, and it hasn't moved. We don't know what it wants." Jake studied the creature through the window. It was bigger than any animal he had ever seen. Its head alone was the size of a city bus. The dragon seemed to be watching the people below, but it hadn't attacked anyone yet. "Has it said anything?" Jake asked. "Said anything?" Patricia looked confused. "Jake, it's a dragon. They don't talk." "How do we know that?" Jake replied. "How do we know anything about dragons? When was the last time anyone saw one?" Patricia had no answer. Nobody in New Haven had ever seen a real dragon before. There were stories and movies, but those were just fantasy. This was real, and it was sitting on top of their city. The police. Chief Bob Martinez burst into the office. "Mayor, we have a problem." The thing just spoke. Patricia and Jake both turned to stare at him. "What did it say?" Patricia asked. "It wants tribute," Bob said. "Food, gold, whatever the city can offer. It gave us until sunset, or it said bad things will happen." Jake felt anger rising in his chest. His job was to protect New Haven and its people. He had spent 15 years training and fighting to keep the city safe. Now some overgrown lizard thought it could just show up and make demands. "We don't negotiate with terrorists," Jake said. "Dragon or not, this thing is threatening our people." "Jake, this isn't some guy with a gun," Patricia said. "Look at it. Our weapons might not even scratch something that big." Jake had been thinking the same thing, but he wouldn't admit it. He had trained his whole life to face impossible odds. When he was a kid in foster care, bigger boys had picked on him until he learned to fight back. In the army, his commanders had given him missions that seemed hopeless. Each time, he had found a way to win. "I need to see our weapons inventory," Jake said, "and I want to talk to Dr. Helen Park at the university. She studies old stories and legends. Maybe she knows something about dragons that can help us." Patricia nodded and picked up her phone. While she made calls, Jake walked to the window and stared up at the dragon. The creature was beautiful in a terrifying way. Its scales moved like liquid gold, and its eyes were bright blue, almost like human eyes. Something about those eyes bothered Jake. They looked intelligent, not like a wild animal. They looked sad. Dr. Park arrived an hour later with a stack of old books. She was a small woman with gray hair, but she moved quickly and spoke with confidence. "I've studied dragon legends from around the world," she said. "Most cultures have stories about dragons, but they're all different. Some dragons are evil monsters. Others are wise and noble. Some can change into human form. What about fighting them?" Jake asked. "The stories say different things. Some dragons can be killed with special weapons or magic. Others are nearly impossible to defeat. But Jake, there's something else you should know." "What?" "In many stories, dragons and humans are connected. Sometimes dragons were once human, or humans have. Dragon blood. The legends say that dragons can sense these connections." Jake didn't like where this was going. "What does that mean?" "It means the dragon might not be here by accident. It might be looking for something, or someone." Before anyone could respond, the building shook. Through the window, they could see the dragon had moved. It was now perched on the roof of City Hall itself. "Everyone out!" Jake shouted. "Clear the building." People ran for the exits as Jake grabbed his equipment. He had military weapons in his car, including a rocket launcher that might be able to hurt the dragon. If the creature wanted a fight, Jake would give it one dot. As he ran outside, Jake looked up at the dragon. It was staring right at him. Those blue eyes seemed to be studying his face, like it was trying to remember something. "You want tribute?" Jake shouted up at the creature. "Come down here and take it." The dragon tilted its massive head. Then it did something that made Jake's blood run cold. It smiled. Dragons weren't supposed to smile, but this one did. It looked almost human. "I know you," the dragon said in a voice like rolling thunder. "But you don't remember me, do you?" Jake felt a chill run down his spine. The dragon knew him? That was impossible. Jake had lived in New Haven his whole life. He would remember meeting a dragon. "I don't know what you're talking about," Jake called back. "You will," the dragon replied. "Before this ends, you will remember everything." The creature spread its wings and flew away, leaving Jake standing in the street with his weapon in his hands and 1,000 questions in his mind. The dragon knew him somehow, but Jake had no memory of ever seeing it before. That night, Jake lay in bed, trying to make sense of what had happened. He had always been good at his job because he could think clearly under pressure. But something about the dragon made his thoughts fuzzy. When he looked into those blue eyes, he felt like he was forgetting something important. Jake had been an orphan since he was 5 years old. He had no memories from before that age, which the doctors sighed was normal. Trauma could make children forget things. But now he wondered what else he might have forgotten. The dragon would be back tomorrow. Jake was sure of it. And when it returned, he would be ready. He had to protect his city and his people, even if it meant fighting a creature that seemed to know secrets about his past. As he drifted off to sleep, Jake dreamed of fire and golden scales. In his dream, someone was calling his name, but the voice was familiar in a way that made no sense. When he woke up the next morning, he couldn't remember who the voice belonged to, but he knew the dragon would have answers. Jake woke up before dawn with his heart racing. The dream had felt so real. He could still smell smoke and hear voices calling his name. But when he tried to remember the details, they slipped away like water through his fingers. He got dressed in his military gear and checked his weapons. Today he would face the dragon again, and this time he would be ready. His team had worked all night to prepare special ammunition and explosives. If regular bullets couldn't hurt the creature, maybe armor-piercing rounds would work. The dragon returned at exactly noon, landing on the same bank building as before. This time, Jake was waiting with his best soldiers. They had positioned themselves on nearby rooftops with clear shots at the creature. "Remember, aim for the eyes and joints," Jake told his team through his radio. "Those might be weak spots." "Yes, sir." came the replies from 5 different positions around the dragon. Jake raised his rifle and looked through the scope. The dragon sat perfectly still, as if it knew they were there. Its blue eyes seemed to be searching the rooftops until they found Jake's position. "Fire!" Jake commanded. Bullets and rockets flew toward the dragon from all directions. The creature didn't even try to dodge. The weapons hit its scales and bounced off like raindrops. Even the rockets that exploded directly against its body did no damage at all. The dragon stood up and stretched its wings. "Are you finished?" it asked in that same thunder-deep voice. Jake felt his anger growing. "Not even close," he shouted back. He grabbed a grenade launcher and fired 3 rounds at the creature's head. The explosions were huge, but when the smoke cleared, the dragon looked completely unharmed. It shook its head like it was brushing off dust. "My turn," the dragon said, It opened its mouth and breathed out a stream of golden fire. The flames didn't hit Jake or his team, but they melted a parked car below into liquid metal in seconds. The message was clear. The dragon could have killed them all if it wanted to. Jake's team started to retreat, but he stayed where he was. "Fall back to position 2, he ordered. "I'll keep it busy." "Sir, this isn't working," came a voice through his radio. "We need to try something else." "Negative," Jake replied. "We don't give up." He dropped his rifle and pulled out his sidearm. It was a smaller weapon, but Jake had always been a perfect shot with it. He aimed carefully at the dragon's left eye and fired. The bullet hit exactly where he aimed, but it bounced off the dragon's eyelid without leaving a mark. The creature blinked once, then looked directly at Jake with what seemed like disappointment. "You're going to hurt yourself," the dragon said. "Stop this foolishness and come talk to me." "I don't talk to terrorists," Jake replied. He reloaded his weapon and fired again. This time the dragon moved faster than anything that big should be able to move. It leaped from the bank building to Jake's rooftop in one smooth motion. The impact shook the entire building, and Jake fell. Backwards, the dragon's massive head lowered until it was only a few feet from Jake's face. Up close, Jake could see that the creature's scales weren't just gold. They had patterns of blue and silver that moved like ocean waves. The dragon's breath was warm, but didn't smell like sulfur or smoke. It smelled like pine trees and rain. "Take off your helmet," the dragon said quietly. "What?" Jake was confused. He kept his gun pointed at the creature's eye, even though he knew it was useless. "Your helmet. Remove it. I need to see your face clearly." Jake didn't want to follow the dragon's orders, but something in its voice made him curious. Slowly, he reached up and pulled off his tactical helmet. His dark hair fell across his forehead, and he pushed it back with one hand. The dragon's eyes went wide. It pulled its head back and stared at Jake like it had seen a ghost. "It really is you," the dragon whispered. "After all these years, I found." "You found me?" Jake scrambled to his feet. "I don't know what you're talking about. I've never seen you before in my life." "Look at me," the dragon said. "Really look at me. Don't you remember anything?" Jake stared into the creature's blue eyes. There was something familiar about them, but he couldn't place what it was. It was like trying to remember a song he had heard a long time ago. "I remember being 5 years old and waking up in a hospital," Jake said. "The doctor said I was in an accident, a fire. My parents died, and I was the only survivor. That's all I know." The dragon's expression grew sad. "That wasn't an accident, and you weren't the only survivor." Before Jake could ask what that meant, he heard helicopters approaching. The military had arrived with heavy weapons. Jake knew they would try to kill the dragon, and for some reason, that thought made him feel sick. "You have to go," Jake said. "They're coming with missiles and bombs. Even if you can't be hurt, Innocent people might get caught in the crossfire. The dragon looked surprised. You're warning me? I don't want civilians to get hurt, Jake replied. That's my job. Protecting people? Even from me? Especially from you? The dragon nodded slowly. You really don't remember, do you? The doctors must have done something to your memory. What doctors? What are you talking about? The ones who separated us, the dragon said. The ones who made you forget who you really are. The helicopters were getting closer. Jake could hear the pilots talking on their radios, planning their attack. He had maybe 2 minutes before they opened fire. I have to go, the dragon said. But Jake, I need you to do something for me. How do you know my name? I've always known your name. Will you do something for me? Jake hesitated. Everything about this situation was wrong. He should be trying to capture or kill this creature, not having a conversation with it. But something deep inside him wanted to hear what the dragon had to say. What do you want? Meet me tonight, alone, at the old Helix Corporation building. On 5th Street, midnight. Jake knew the building. It had been abandoned for 20 years after some kind of accident. People said it was dangerous, so the city had fenced it off. Why there? Because that's where it all started, the dragon said. That's where they tried to destroy us both. The helicopters were almost on top of them now. The dragon spread its enormous wings and prepared to take off. Wait, Jake called out. What's your name? The dragon paused. I'm Darius, and you're my brother. Before Jake could respond, Darius launched himself into the air. The downdraft from his wings knocked Jake flat on his back. By the time the helicopters arrived, the dragon was gone. Jake lay on the rooftop, staring at the sky. Brother? That was impossible. Jake didn't have any family. He had been alone his whole life. But as he thought about Darius's blue eyes, Jake realized they looked just like his own. And when the dragon had said his name, it sounded like someone who had said it 1,000 times before. That night, Jake stood outside the fence around the Helix building. He knew he shouldn't be there. He should report what Darius had told him and let the military handle it. But he had to know the truth about what happened when he was 5 years old. The building looked dark and empty, but Jake could see a faint golden glow coming from one of the upper windows. Darius was waiting for him. Jake cut through the fence and walked toward the entrance. He was about to learn secrets that would change everything he thought he knew about himself. Jake pushed open the heavy door of the Helix building. The hinges creaked loudly in the silence. Inside, everything was covered in dust and shadows. Broken glass crunched under his boots as he walked through what used to be a lobby. The building had been empty for 20 years, but Jake could still smell chemicals in the air. Whatever had happened here, it had left a mark that time couldn't erase. Up here, came Darius's voice from somewhere above. Jake found a staircase and climbed carefully. Some of the steps were cracked, and he didn't trust them to hold his weight. On the 3rd floor, he saw the golden glow he had noticed from outside. Darius was waiting in what looked like an old laboratory. The dragon had somehow squeezed his massive body through the windows. Equipment lay scattered everywhere, covered in 20 years of dust. Computer screens were dark and broken. You came, Darius said. I wasn't sure you would. I need answers, Jake replied. You said we're brothers. Prove it. Darius gestured with one wing toward a wall, covered in photographs and documents. Look around. See what they did to us. Jake approached the wall carefully. Most of the papers were too faded to read, but some of the photos were still clear. They showed a laboratory full of scientists in white coats. In the center of the room were 2 large glass containers filled with some kind of blue liquid. Incubation chambers, Darius explained. They grew us in those tanks. Jake stared at the photos. The chambers looked like something from a science fiction movie. This is crazy. People aren't grown in tanks. We weren't exactly people, Darius said quietly. Jake found more photos on a nearby desk. These showed the chambers at different stages. At first, they were empty. Then they contained small shapes floating in the blue liquid. As Jake looked through the pictures in order, he watched the shapes grow larger and more defined dot in the final photos. The chambers held two children who looked about 5 years old. They were identical in every way, except for their eyes. One child had blue eyes. The other had brown eyes that later turned blue. That's us, Darius said. You and me. Jake's hands were shaking as he held the photograph. The child with brown eyes looked exactly like him, but younger. This can't be real. Keep looking. There's more. Jake found a file labeled Project Twin Flame in a desk drawer. Most of the pages were water damaged, but he could read enough to understand what had happened. The Helix Corporation had been trying to create super soldiers by mixing human and fen dragon DNA. They started with one dragon egg, Darius explained. But when they added human genetic material, something unexpected happened. The egg split into two. We're twins, Jake. Born from the same source, but raised in different worlds. Jake read more of the file. The scientists had been amazed by their success. The two children showed signs of both human intelligence and dragon abilities. They were stronger and faster than normal humans. They could sense danger before it happened. And as they grew, they showed signs of developing fire-based powers. What happened to us? Jake asked. Why don't I remember any of this? There was an accident, Darius said. Or maybe it wasn't an accident. I've never been sure. Jake found newspaper clippings in another folder. The headlines told the story. Fire destroys Helix Laboratory. 2 children missing after chemical plant explosion. Search called off for missing lab workers. The fire had happened exactly 20 years ago, when Jake was 5 years old. The same age he was when he woke up in the hospital with no memory of his past. I remember the night it happened, Darius said. There were alarms everywhere. People were running and screaming. The scientists tried to get us out of the building, but the fire spread too fast. Then what? Jake asked. We got separated. I remember you crying and reaching for me as they carried you away. I tried to follow, but part of the ceiling fell down between us. Jake felt a strange pain in his chest. He didn't remember any of this, but somehow it felt familiar. Like a nightmare, he had forgotten upon waking. The rescue workers found you. First, Darius continued, they got you to the hospital, but they never found me. Everyone thought I died in the fire. But you didn't die. No, someone else found me. Someone who understood what I really was. Darius explained that an old dragon named Elder Marcus had sensed the fire and come to investigate. When he found the injured child who smelled like dragon magic, Marcus knew what had happened. He took me away and raised me as his own, Darius said. He taught me to use my dragon abilities. He helped me change into my true form. True form? Jake asked. This, Darius gestured to his massive dragon body. This is what we're supposed to become. What you could become, if you remembered how. Jake shook his head. I'm human. I've always been human. Are you? Darius asked. Think about your whole life. Haven't you always been different? Stronger than other people? Better reflexes? Able to sense when danger was coming? Jake wanted to deny it, but he couldn't. Throughout his military career, other soldiers had joked that he had supernatural abilities. He could dodge bullets that he never saw coming. He could fight for hours without getting tired. He had survived injuries that should have killed him. The doctors who treated you after the fire, Darius said, they knew what you were. They gave you drugs to suppress your dragon side. They made you forget everything about your real nature. Why would they do that? Because they were afraid. They knew that if the world learned about us, people would panic. 2 children with dragon powers? They couldn't control us, so they tried to make us disappear. Jake found more documents that supported Darius's story. Medical records showed that he had been given experimental treatments for genetic abnormalities. The treatments were designed to suppress certain DNA sequences and block specific memories. They turned you into a normal human, Darius said, or as normal as they could make you. But they couldn't get rid of everything. That's why you became such a good soldier. Your dragon instincts were still there, just buried deep. Jake sat down heavily in an old chair. Everything he thought he knew about himself was wrong. His whole life had been built on lies and hidden truths. I've been looking for you for years, Darius said. Elder Marcus helped me search through government records and hospital files. When I finally found you, I had to see you for myself. So you came to New Haven and pretended to terrorize the city? I had to make sure the city's best soldier would come after me. I knew that would be you. And I was right. Jake looked at his hands. They looked normal, but now he wondered what they were capable of. Can I really turn into a dragon like you? With practice, yes. But first, you have to stop taking the pills. What pills? The ones you take every morning with your coffee. Small, white pills. You probably think they're vitamins or supplements. Jake's blood went cold. He did take pills every morning. The military doctor had given them to him years ago, saying they would help with stress and keep him healthy. He had never questioned it. They're still suppressing your abilities, Darius said. As long as you keep taking them, you'll never remember who you really are. Thunder rumbled outside, and Jake realized it was starting to rain. The sound echoed through the empty building like voices from the past. I need time to think about this, Jake said. I understand, but don't wait too long. There are people who know about us. People who want to finish what Helix Corporation started. If they find us, they'll try to use us or destroy us. What people? The same ones who separated us 20 years ago. They're still out there, still experimenting. And now they know I found you. Jake stood up and walked toward the window. Outside, he could see the lights of New Haven, his city, the place he had sworn to protect. But now he wondered if he was protecting it from the right enemies. Tomorrow night, Darius said. Meet me at the old water tower on Hill Street. Stop taking the pills and see what happens. Then decide if you want to learn the truth about what we really are. As Jake left the building, his mind was racing with questions. He had spent his whole life believing he was alone in the world. Now he had discovered that not only did he have a brother, but they were both something that shouldn't exist. The rain was getting heavier as he walked back to his car. For the first time in years, Jake Morrison didn't know what to do next. Jake stared at the small white pill in his palm. For 15 years, he had taken one every morning without question. The military doctor had told him they were vitamins to keep him strong and healthy. Now he knew the truth. He threw the pill in the trash and made himself breakfast. His hands were shaking slightly. He didn't know what would happen when the drugs left his system, but he had to find out. The first day without the pills felt normal. Jake went to work and handled his usual duties. But that night, he had the most vivid dreams of his life. He saw fire and smoke, heard voices calling his name, and felt like he was flying through clouds. The second day was harder. Jake's senses seemed sharper. He could hear conversations from across the room. The smell of coffee from the break room was so strong it made his nose burn. Colors looked brighter, and lights seemed too harsh. His team noticed something was different. "You okay, boss?" asked Sergeant Lisa Cooper during their morning briefing. "You look like you haven't slept." "I'm fine," Jake replied, but he wasn't. His body felt like it was changing from the inside out. His muscles ached, and he had a constant low fever. On the third day, Jake could barely concentrate on his work. Every sound was too loud. Every smell was too strong. He left the office early and went home to rest. That evening, he drove to the old water tower where Darius was waiting. The dragon looked smaller than before, or maybe Jake's eyes were playing tricks on him. "How do you feel?" Darius asked. "Terrible," Jake admitted. "Everything hurts. I can barely think straight. That's normal. Your body is remembering what it's supposed to be. The process takes time." Jake sat down on a concrete barrier near the water tower. "I read more files about the Helix project. The scientists who created us, what happened to them?" "Most died in the fire," Darius said. "But not all of them. Dr. Samuel Brooks survived. He's been continuing the work in secret." "What work?" "Creating more like us. But his new experiments aren't like we were. They're different. Wrong." Darius explained that Dr. Brooks had been trying for 20 years to recreate the success of Project Twin Flame, but without the original dragon egg and the specific conditions that created Jake and Darius. His attempts had failed. "He's been making artificial dragons," Darius said. "Creatures that look like dragons but have no intelligence or soul. They exist only to destroy." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "How do you know this?" "Because 3 of them attacked Elder Marcus last month. He barely escaped with his life." "Where is Elder Marcus now?" "Dead," Darius said quietly. "Brooks found him and killed him 2 days ago, just before I came to New Haven looking for you." Jake saw pain in his brother's eyes. Elder Marcus had been the only father Darius had ever known. "I'm sorry," Jake said. "I know he meant a lot to you. He taught me everything. How to fly, how to control fire, how to be proud of what I am. And before he died, he told me something important." "What?" "Brooks is planning something big. He's created an army of artificial dragons, and he's going to use them to take over the city. But first, he wants to capture us." Jake stood up quickly. "Capture us? Why?" "Because we're the only successful experiments. He needs our blood and genetic material to perfect his process. With samples from us, he could create dragons that are both intelligent and completely under his control. Then we need to stop him." "We?" Darius looked surprised. "Yesterday, you didn't even believe you were part dragon." Jake thought about that. 3 days ago, he had been Captain Jake Morrison, human soldier and protector of New Haven. Now he was learning that everything about his identity was a lie. But one thing hadn't changed. "I still have a job to do," Jake said. "I protect this city and its people. If Brooks is planning to attack them, I'll stop him. Even if it means embracing what you really are." Jake looked at his hands. They still looked human, but he could feel something different about them. A warmth that hadn't been there before. "Show me," he said. "Show me how to change." Darius moved closer. "Close your eyes. Think about fire. Not destructive fire, but the fire of life. The fire that burns in every living thing." Jake closed his eyes and tried to feel the warmth inside him. At first, nothing happened. Then he felt a tingling sensation in his chest, like his heart was beating faster. "Now think about strength," Darius said. "Think about protecting the people you love." The tingling spread through Jake's body. His muscles felt like they were expanding. His bones felt like they were getting denser. When he opened his eyes, his hands looked different. His fingernails had grown longer and sharper, like claws. "Good," Darius said. "That's the beginning. With practice, you'll be able to change much more." Jake stared at his transformed hands. They still looked mostly human, but now they were clearly weapons. "How much can I change?" "I don't know. We're both unique. I can take full dragon form, but you might be different." You've lived as a human for 20 years. That might affect how your abilities develop. Jake flexed his fingers, watching the claws extend and retract. It felt natural, like he had always been able to do it. There's something else, Darius said. Brooks isn't working alone. He has government support. Some people in high places want to use his artificial dragons as weapons. What people? I don't know exactly. But Elder Marcus intercepted communications between Brooks and someone in the military. They're planning to test the artificial dragons on a major city. Jake felt his anger rising. New Haven? It makes sense. A city this size would be a perfect test. If the artificial dragons can conquer New Haven, they can conquer anywhere. When? Soon, maybe tonight. As if on cue, Jake's phone rang. It was Mayor Patricia Wells. Jake, thank God, she said when he answered. We have a situation. There. Are reports of strange creatures flying toward the city from the north. Multiple contacts on radar. Jake looked at Darius. It's starting. Jake, where are you? Patricia asked. We need you back at headquarters immediately. I'll be right there, Jake said. He hung up and turned to Darius. Are you ready for this? I've been ready for 20 years, Darius replied. But what about you? Are you ready to let people see what you really are? Jake thought about that. His whole life had been built on hiding his true nature, even from himself. If he used his dragon abilities to fight Brooks's creatures, everyone would know he wasn't completely human. The people of New Haven are my responsibility, Jake said. I don't care what they think of me afterward. Then let's go save your city. As they prepared to leave, Jake felt something he had never experienced before. For the first time in his life, he wasn't fighting alone. He had a brother, someone who understood exactly what he was going through. The artificial dragons appeared. On the horizon, just as Jake reached the city center, there were dozens of them, flying in perfect formation like military aircraft. But these weren't machines. They were living creatures created for one purpose: destruction. Jake grabbed his radio and called his team. All units, we have incoming hostiles. These aren't like anything we've faced before. What are your orders, sir? Came Lisa's voice. Jake looked up at Darius, who was preparing to take flight. Evacuate civilians from the downtown area. Set up a perimeter, but don't engage unless you have to. These things are too dangerous for conventional weapons. What about you, sir? Jake felt the warmth spreading through his body again. His claws extended, and he could feel his muscles growing stronger. I'm going to try something new, he said. The first artificial dragon dove toward the city center, breathing green fire that melted everything it touched. Jake ran toward it, feeling his body change with every step. By the time he reached the creature, he was no longer completely human. The battle for New Haven was about to begin. The first artificial dragon crashed into the street just as Jake reached it. The creature was smaller than Darius, but its eyes glowed with an unnatural red light. It had no intelligence, only hunger for destruction. Jake felt his body changing. As he ran, his muscles grew larger and his skin became tougher. When the artificial dragon breathed green fire at him, Jake rolled aside faster than any human could move. The fire melted the concrete where he had been standing. Jake, behind you! Darius shouted from above. Jake spun around to see another artificial dragon diving at him with claws extended. Without thinking, Jake jumped higher than should have been possible. His own claws met the creature's, and they crashed to the ground. Together, the artificial dragon was strong, but Jake was stronger. His claws tore through its neck, and the creature stopped moving. Black blood pooled around its body. Not bad for a beginner, Darius said, landing beside him. But there are many. More coming. Jake looked up at the sky. Dozens of artificial dragons were circling the city like vultures. Some were breathing fire at buildings. Others were attacking people trying to escape. We can't fight them all, Jake said. We don't have to fight them all, Darius replied. We just have to stop the one controlling them. Dr. Brooks? He's here. Somewhere. The artificial dragons need constant commands to function. If we can find Brooks and stop him, they'll become confused and easier to defeat. Jake activated his radio. Lisa, do you copy? Yes, sir. We've evacuated most of the downtown area, but these things are spreading out across the city. I need you to scan for any unusual radio signals or electronic activity. Someone is controlling these creatures remotely. On it, sir. But Jake, where are you? We can see explosions and fighting, but we can't see you anywhere. Jake looked down at himself. His hands now had full claws, his muscles had doubled in size, and his skin had a metallic sheen like dragon scales. He definitely didn't look human anymore. I'm in the field, he said. Just keep scanning for that signal. 3 more artificial dragons landed in the street around them. These ones looked different, bigger and more dangerous. Their red eyes focused on Jake and Darius with calculating intelligence. These are the new models, Darius said. Brooks has been improving his design. The 3 creatures attacked at once. Darius breathed golden fire at one, while Jake tackled another. The 3rd artificial dragon circled around them, looking for an opening to strike. Jake's opponent was faster than the first one. Its claws raked across his chest, leaving deep cuts. But instead of slowing him down, the pain made Jake angrier. He felt more heat building up inside his body. Jake, try breathing fire, Darius called out while wrestling with his own opponent. I don't know how. Think about the heat inside you. Push it out through your mouth. Jake focused on the burning sensation in his chest. He opened his mouth and pushed the heat outward. A stream of blue flames shot out, hotter than anything he had ever felt. The artificial dragon screamed and stumbled backward. Blue fire, Darius said with amazement. I've never seen that before. Jake's flames had burned through the artificial dragon's scales like they were paper. The creature collapsed, smoke rising from its body. Boss, we found something. Lisa's voice came through the radio. Strong electronic signals coming from the old subway tunnel entrance on Main Street. Looks like someone set up equipment down there. That's got to be Brooks, Jake said to Darius. Then let's go pay him a visit. They ran through the streets, toward Main Street. More artificial dragons tried to stop them, but Jake and Darius fought together like they had been partners for years. Jake's human military training combined with his new dragon abilities made him deadly. Darius's experience and full dragon form made him unstoppable. The subway entrance was guarded by 5 of the biggest artificial dragons they had seen yet. These creatures were almost as large as Darius, with armor-like scales and weapons built into their claws. The Guardian models, Darius said. Brooks saved his best for last. Can we take them? Together? Yes, but it won't be easy. The battle was the hardest fight of Jake's life. The Guardian artificial dragons moved like machines, coordinating their attacks perfectly. They showed no fear and felt no pain. One of them grabbed Jake and threw him through a store window. Another breathed acid that burned through Darius's scales. But Jake and Darius had something the artificial dragons didn't have. They had each other. When Jake was in trouble, Darius was there to help. When Darius was overwhelmed, Jake came to his rescue. Finally, they defeated the last Guardian. Both brothers were injured and exhausted, but they made their way down into the subway tunnels. The tunnels had been converted into a high-tech laboratory. Computer screens lined the walls, showing video feeds from all over the city. In the center of the room stood Dr. Samuel Brooks, an old man with white hair and cold eyes. The Morrison twins, Brooks said without turning around. right on schedule. "It's over, Brooks," Jake said. "Call off your creatures." Brooks laughed. "Over? This is just the beginning. Do you see what I've accomplished? An army of dragons that follow orders without question. No emotions, no conscience, no free will. Perfect weapons. They're abominations." Darius said, "You're destroying the very thing that makes dragons noble." "Noble?" Brooks turned to face them. "Dragons are dangerous monsters. But my artificial dragons are controlled monsters. They can be used to bring order to the world." Jake saw movement behind Brooks. More artificial dragons were emerging from deeper in the tunnel system. These ones looked even more advanced than the Guardians. "You're not going to stop me," Brooks continued. "But you are going to help me whether you want to or not." He pressed a button, and metal restraints shot out of the walls toward Jake and Darius. The brothers dodged, but more restraints kept coming. "I need genetic samples from successful hybrids." Brooks said, "Your DNA will help me create artificial dragons that can think and plan like humans, but still follow my commands completely." Jake felt his anger reaching a boiling point. This man had destroyed his childhood, killed Elder Marcus, and was now threatening innocent people. The heat inside Jake's body grew hotter than it had ever been. "You want to see what a real dragon can do?" Jake asked. He opened his mouth and breathed out blue flames hotter than the sun. The fire melted through Brooks's computers and equipment like they were made of ice. The artificial dragons collapsed as their control signals disappeared. Brooks tried to run, but Darius blocked his path. "This ends now," the dragon said. "Wait," Jake said. "Don't kill him. He needs to face trial for what he's done." Darius looked surprised. "You want to show mercy to this monster?" "I want to show him that we're better than his artificial dragons. We can choose mercy over revenge." Brooks was captured and arrested. His laboratory was destroyed, and his remaining artificial dragons were shut down permanently. The city was safe, but Jake's secret was out. Everyone had seen him fighting alongside a dragon, using powers that no human should possess. Mayor Patricia Wells called Jake to her office the next day. "I need to know what happened out there," she said. "What are you, exactly?" Jake told her the truth, all of it. When he finished, Patricia sat quietly for a long moment. "So you're not entirely human," she said finally. "No," Jake replied. "I'm not." "But you're still the same person who has protected the city for 15 years? "Yes." Patricia smiled. "Then as far as I'm concerned, nothing has changed. New Haven needs protectors like you and your brother." Jake felt relief wash over him. "You want us to stay?" "I want you to keep doing what you've always done. Protect the people of this city." That evening, Jake met Darius on the roof of City Hall that looked out over New Haven as the sun set behind the buildings. "So what now?" Jake asked. "Now we rebuild," Darius said. "We learn to be brothers again. We protect the people we care about. And if more threats come, then we face them together." Jake smiled and felt truly happy for the first time in 20 years. He wasn't alone anymore. He had found his brother, learned the truth about himself, and discovered that being different didn't mean being rejected. New Haven had 2 guardians now, watching over the city from the shadows in the sky.